Hey guys, welcome to the Blue Collar Business Podcast, where we discuss the realest, rawest, most relevant stories and strategies behind building every corner of a blue collar business. I'm your host, Cy Kirby, and I want to help you in what it took me, trial and error, and a whole lot of money to learn. The information that no one in this industry is willing to share. Whether you're under that shade tree or have your hard hat on, let's expand your toolbox. Thank you guys so much for coming back and joining us. I'm very, very excited to bring you a very interesting niche to the market that has been needed and covered and is covered so well. I have personally used this service. I'm so excited to hopefully shed a little light on this category. Before we go any further, we are filming this on launch day, relaunch, whatever you want to call it, of bluecollarbusinesspodcast.com. You can find all our episodes, every conversational piece, and articles to basically help you in any skilled trade, blue collar platform world. I don't care if you're in an apprenticeship all the way to ownership. There's something on there to help you. And this guest and this gentleman is definitely somebody that helped me when I was in a pinch. And I am so glad to be able to bring him on and talk about it. This is Ben Bruni, with the owner of Paydirt Earthworks Support Systems, and that's what he is. He is a full turnkey support system, and to a contractor like myself that is up and coming, trying to build that estimation department, don't really feel confident in the GPS world with all the new technology. But basically, we're going to cover a couple of topics with his knowledge and attributes to the industry in the blue collar world. He's obviously in the takeoff estimating world, so we're going to go with why accurate estimating is so crucial for construction, how to effectively communicate with clients during that process, and the latest, I'm excited to get into this, dude, the latest tech trends in blue-collar work, especially more site work excavation geared, and you're the guy to talk to on this. And lastly, a couple of tips for, building and running your own business, man. You've done that successfully over, when did you get started? And Ben, kind of take it away with an intro of who you are. Shout out to paydirtsupport.com. That's where you can find all of his information. But furthermore, Ben, thank you so much for joining me.
No, thanks for having me, Cy. So I own Paydirt Earthwork Support Services. We pretty much do takeoffs, estimating, bidding, shop drawings. We do LiDAR, topographical surveying, pretty much any sort of support that you need for an excavation business on the back end of things for estimating or to be able to get your estimate. We handle that. We work with a lot of mainly smaller to mid-sized contractors that can't really justify having a full-time estimator work for them. And we're not like a lot of other estimating companies where they just kind of do some unit rates and stuff and they just give you it back. We really try to delve into your project and see what kind of equipment that you need out there, your soil types, and just to account for everything on there.
I mentioned briefly, guys, that I have used Paydirt estimating, Paydirt support systems. In the estimating and takeoff, we had a very unique opportunity, a very large project here in town on the budgetary sense, and I really didn't have much time. We were so close to getting to where we were at to feel confident with our own takeoff modeling software, etc., but we weren't confident enough in it to provide quantification for this large scale project. Although we can execute it, we know how to handle the work, we have the equipment, or whatever the case may be, whether I'm, adventuring off into maybe something a little bit more challenging or difficult for me, is exactly when I reached out to Ben, and I'm like, I can't remember. It was like a 30-something acre site. It's 280 separate water and sewer services. I mean, it was fully involved. We were looking at it as a total site, and I flipped it over to Ben, and you guys, dude, the turnaround time was what I was blown away with, eh? Literally, you guys have some crazy, it's crazy what they're doing with software in general in our world, bro, but you guys utilize some different programs. So talk about, number one, the importance of accurate estimating, but the accurate work in our world as a contractor, setting us up accurate to walk into the job.
Yeah, so I think it's really important. I think it really starts with your estimating for a job to be, accurate later on in your work as well. Um, a lot of it's going to come down, I think, to your bottom line as well. If you're not accurate and you're too low, you might get the job and then you get it and realize that something's off on there. And then it could go the other way as well, where you may be bidding that thing way too high and never get any callbacks, or just people think you're just highballing them. So I think to kind of be like middle of the grounds whenever you're sending your bid in, to figure out everything that's actually out there, go through that geotech report. I know nobody likes doing that. It's one of my least favorite things to do as well. But there's a lot of information there. It's going to tell you, how, what's underneath the project. And, when you figure out what's underground there, that's going to also, really boil down to your man hours and your production out there also. Same with, some tools that you may need out there, just depending upon what it calls out for. And that's really going to show you what's out there, to delve further.
Yeah, it's basically you're if that geotech if and that's the problem with a lot of these. If you're in a larger scale platform, 30-acre, 20-acre site, they're almost always going to have a geotech. But if you're talking about a 1 or 2 acre site, little swampy area, they may not have pulled a geotech in our area. Now, I should have mentioned Ben is out in South Carolina, but I'm in Northwest Arkansas, and he was able to provide me a takeoff within 4 or 5 days, completely accurate with the strata data, whatever you want to call it, which is the material that is on site from the actual geotech, showing each and individual layer. And basically he's compiling the information to give to me as a contractor and go, hey man, you've got 9,000 usable yards on site. You don't have to truck all of this in. And if you can make it an accurate assumption, and number one, you're generating an edge, because your sales team can use this information. Well, the more information you have, the more empowered you have, no matter what. But
for sure,
the information that you gathered, brother, on that first initial takeoff was silly. I mean, furthermore than I would ever do for myself, 100%, from sidewalks to the whole thing. Talk about not only during that estimating process of keeping accuracy, that's number one, but the overall communication. I really want to ask you about liability in this sense, because I know you've probably ran into it. While you're building this takeoff, communicating with the customer, I know they have tons of questions. How do we keep that level of communication with them? How do we keep the level of communication internally? Kind of talk about your systems and what you're doing, but the overall accuracy that you're providing is unbelievable.
Thank you. Yeah, so kind of the process for whenever we get a job, we have like a work order request form. Everybody's going to fill that out. That tells us exactly what we need to do. There's no miscommunication there. And then from there, we'll also get all the documents, plan, specs, geotech, whatever it is. As we go through those, we will have a note sheet that we generally going to give over to you whenever you have a takeoff done. And what we're going to do there is we're going to take snippets out of the geotech, because the geotech's super lengthy. It's on the short side, maybe 40 pages, and I've seen some that are 1,500 or so. So what we do is we highlight a lot of it. We'll take screenshots of it, and we put it into like a Word note sheet essentially. And we put down like what all of your like bedding and backfills called out for, all of your other subgrades for your pavement, foundation, highlight anything. Geotechs can also be kind of misleading. You might read one paragraph and it says that this soil is unsuitable, but the next paragraph says you might be able to reuse it. So we always try to let all of our clients know, what you can reuse, what you can't, where we also, there's even sometimes, like I just said, when they're really confusing, we may not know the exacts, and we'll put the snippet of that there. Say, hey, if we're not doing the complete bid, then we'll say, hey, you might want to call up the GC on this, or the engineer, whoever did the geotech, and see exactly what they mean, or we'll do it and see what we can actually do with this. I think it's super important to communicate that, not only for myself to my clients, but also my clients to their clients. Because, like you were just saying, the more information you have, the better off it's going to be. That way, you can put exclusions and qualifications on your bid. So, you can say that we're assuming this as, reusable fill. If, this is the amount, we have X amount here that we think we can reuse. If this differentiates from what we put on here, it's going to be, X amount per cubic yard or ton, or, whatever it may be that you're doing out there. And to also inform, you as an excavation contractor, to inform the general contractor or developer, whoever you're bidding the project to.
Right.
All of these things, because for one, it shows that you really went through this project. You know what you're talking about.
That's right.
And that helps, for one, just right there, to have all that knowledge. And also, again, if there's any changes, I think it makes you also look better whenever you're submitting a bid, that they can have several options. Hey, we saw this. If you want to reuse all of this, topsoil over here where you had to put 5 foot of fill and there's not going to be anything ever built on it, well, I can save you $500,000 by not getting rid of all this topsoil. So,
and it's crazy, man. In our world, people don't probably, outside of the excavation and utility sense, they don't understand the amount of money that you can save a project by spending the amount of money up front. The other big key factor that I heard you say is pushing back on the engineer. Everybody just believes, don't get me wrong, I just had a civil engineer speaking with him, et cetera, but literally they think they know how to do everything, trying to be nice here, because they got a fancy document that they went to school for. But the guy that's installing it can usually 100% help you get, you know what I mean?
No, exactly. I mean, if you have somebody, on your team that can kind of bridge the gap between, the guy out in the field doing the work and, the guy that made the plans, and put your heads together, I think you can have a tremendous cost savings. Or, sometimes you look at blueprints and you just don't even know how they're going to do this by looking at it, and, just having that especially for you right now, right? So, by going back and forth with them, I think it's going to be a lot better in the end game than everybody's on the same page. Okay, hey, I screwed up, or they screwed up, whatever it is on this. I wasn't reading it right. You can just communicate with everyone. Everybody's on the same page, and, you're good to go there.
It's crazy, man. But just to have the information that you're dissecting. And the cool thing is the plans that I provide you, the same prints I'm looking at, but I'm not taking any time out of my busy schedule as a contractor, because ultimately, to find the solutions that you're providing, hey, here's an optional addition, here's avoidance of a change order, here's what you're going to have to deal with mid-project. And we're talking about these things before anybody's broke ground, before anybody's out there. And maybe we can make the engineer make adjustments. I've been in cases that we absolutely can. The engineer was totally responsive, and thank God you caught that, et cetera, et cetera. I've also had engineers that don't like me picking their plans apart and going, hey, I'm not trying to make anybody look stupid, but the owner's going to have an interest clock, I'm going to have an expense clock, and you're in the middle. Figure it out. Tell me what I'm going to do. But I think getting somebody, your systems involved over just the information that you give contractors, man, I really highly suggest, even if you do have the capability, I have the capabilities of doing it on my own, but if my team gets too busy, stacked up, etc., you're not fully confident in this software system that you're using for estimating, give Ben a ring. He's not only just going to thoroughly get you a takeoff done in quantities and have that information to fight back against the engineer and fight back against the GC. But he's also going to help you along the way. And he was so helpful with me. And just literally, I've never done any type of estimating service, and not to be any way, Ben, but they kind of get a negative connotation about them because they just fire emails constantly. Let me bid this, let me bid that. And I don't trust them. I have no skin in the game with them. I don't mind paying somebody to give me the information, but I want somebody on the other end that I can pick up the phone and go, hey, Ben, did you see this over here in this? And let's have a discussion. And you walk me through this. Hey, I saw this on the takeoff report. I was figuring for 6,000 yards, but you're telling me 12,000 yards. I mean, hell, that's a $500,000 conversation. And like that, whether it's an owner savings, whether it's in the contractor's pocket, I'm 100% lean on that. Geotech and the information that you can provide through your serviceman is top notch. I excavation groups. I don't know if you guys frequent Facebook. I know there's some hate on Facebook, and there's other folks that always have a Facebook, etc. Those Facebook groups is actually how I found Mr. Bruni himself. There was 6 or 7 guys. I was like, hey, I'm kind of in a pinch. I usually do our own takeoff. I have my own estimator who's very knowledgeable in what he's doing, but we just, the dirt side of things, we want to feel a little bit better in our quantities. Everybody's like, man, Pater. I'm like, let's go. This guy, I called you, bro. You picked up the phone and you go, hey, man, this has been with Pater. And I'm like, oh my God, this is a real service with a real because to be honest with you, talk about a little bit of the stigma and the marketing gap you've had to kind of bridge to get to where you're at, man.
Yeah. So, there definitely is a huge stigma around estimators. You have a lot that are, like based solely in like Pakistan or India or somewhere. And you're right, they don't have any skin in the game. They're probably not going to be using the same softwares as us. They may have like PlanSwift, which we do use and we love it, but we don't use it for earthworks or anything like that, just for underground stuff. I think really the stigma comes from it's very cheap. People don't necessarily know how it, going from a completely different country, the way that civil engineering is done over here than other countries is way different. So it's really hard to have.
So are you saying, not to cut you off, but are you saying most of those estimating services that I'm seeing in my email inbox and spam inbox are from overseas, from not in the U.S.?
Yeah, I would say 9 times out of 10, they probably are. There's definitely a couple other good guys out there that do estimating as well that you may see on the groups also.
Okay.
And like those guys are, from what I've heard from others, are solid, legitimate people. But you have the ones that are all just like, crashing your inbox every morning when you look at it. Those are definitely not the ones to go for, in my opinion. So, with that going, the stigma is huge. I'm just thankful that I've been on honestly, all of our work comes from those Facebook groups. Honestly, we don't do hardly any marketing at all. Just have a lot of people there looking for estimators, and I guess I'm just thankful and blessed enough to always have people to shout me out on there and say, that we did a good job, and that's super helpful for us. So,
dude, it's a testament to how you run your business. It's a quality thing, dude. Your work quality, just like me going out and doing terrible work on a piece of property. I promise you, I say all the time, the 50-to-1 ratio, dude. It's 50 good jobs, but that one bad job. They're all going to talk about that one bad job. Even if you've already had that one bad job, etc., you still got all the good people. As long as you're taking care of people in the long term, from my personal experience, if you're thinking about long-term relationships and not just trying to quick money grab here and there, whatever, and you're thinking about this as a longevity of a business, I'm telling you, man, it's been it's just different. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I tell all of our clients, people come to us skeptical also off the first place, just like, you're just saying with the stigma there. I always say, I'm over here for quality. I try to have three sets of eyes on every project that we do. And if you don't make money from what we do for you, then I'm not going to make money also. I'm not just here to grab a quick dollar or anything like that. I'm here for the long haul with it. So, if what I'm doing is not good quality and, you're, running in the red from it, then that's going to come back on me. Everybody's going to know that I did a terrible job, and, I'm not going to have any business anymore. So we got to pump out quality over quantity for sure.
And how many do you have on staff, brother?
I think 10 right now.
Wow. That's awesome. Are they remote, or are we working in a building, or?
All remote.
Wow, that's awesome because, and I don't think you mentioned earlier the softwares that you kind of use to gather your information. If you want to, if you don't, I totally understand.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I'd say the most used tools, we use Bluebeam, Review Bluebeam. It's just a PDF viewer, but it's so nice to do markups on, like simple little takeoffs. If somebody says, hey man, I forgot to ask you, to do the silt fence on this, I can say, hey, I can put it in the queue, or if you just give me like 10 minutes, I'll throw it on Bluebeam. I'll just text you the number over for it and send you a screenshot of what it looks like.
Right.
So that's great. Saves a lot of time. For our actual takeoffs, we use a lot of PlanSwift. And that's for all our underground and like unit and linear measurements. But as far as like cut fills and earthworks, we use Insight and Trimble. If it's just going to be a takeoff and I know that we don't have to build up a GPS model for it yet, I usually use Insight. I just think it's a lot more user friendly and easier to use. You can also still put in like all of your bore data, all of your stratums and such on there, which is great. And then Trimble, of course, for GPS modeling, anything from, just like your ribbon and invert line work all the way to, 3D modeling for, trenches and your dozer. All of those are great softwares. If somebody's just now starting to get into doing their own estimating, I would say the three I couldn't live without is going to be Bluebeam, Insight, and PlanSwift for sure.
It's so funny, man. Being a pipe and utility guy, I can still, just good old ruler, get a
right,
and I can gather up a takeoff pretty daggone quick.
Yeah,
that's from over the years of just doing it manually, right? I don't honestly know. We normally, of course, will old school method and get our footages too, but normally a lot of times we'll go off of material vendor footages as well to ensure that we're in the area. But we use Magnet, TopCon Magnet.
Okay.
That could be a whole different discussion for another day. Because man, I thought the integration from Magnet, Basin Rovers, and iMachine would just be, seamless, not an issue. Nobody really tells you about all the implementation and the models, and this model's for that, and this file's for this, and that file's for that. And it's a whole nother can of worms that I was not prepared for. I spent the money and I was like, all right, this is going to be the problem fixer. Here we go. I just need the data to put in it. Here you go, guys. Here's the God one and take off. Well, that's not what happened, man. I got my teeth kicked in for 12 to 18 months, and I still don't have all the knowledge I need under the TopCon realm. But the guys in the field do. Sam and that dozer does. Man, you can eat off the floor in that dozer. But, man, talking about modeling, 100%. So you offer 100% modeling services from your takeoff, and that's kind of where you would normally move from Insight and move it into Trimble, I would assume.
Yeah, so like I can export like the XML line work on there over to Trimble. It really depends on like what our base point is, because on a takeoff, a lot of times the engineers aren't going to want to give up their CAD file if it's like a project for bid. So once ever it has been secured, then usually the contractor that we work for gets that CAD file. And a lot of times there's going to be discrepancies between the CAD and the PDF file. Sometimes the PDF is right, sometimes the CAD's wrong. It just depends on the day, I guess, and the job. From there, we usually build it. We always build it off of the CAD file. So if somebody were to give us a takeoff and we had the CAD file, we can at least save them a little bit of money, save ourselves a little bit of time, and export whatever line work that we did have for the takeoff. Now, in some cases, we'd have to adjust. Sometimes it's going to be worth it just to start from scratch, just depending upon how closely these match up together, the CAD and the PDF or whatever it was that we did the takeoff from.
It's
So,
crazy. Go ahead.
yeah, the things you can do with it's crazy. You can just have somebody going back and forth using one lever essentially on the dozer now versus, from before. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Have a grade guy out there, whatever it is.
So you're doing this number, because 100%. Sam just clicks. It's fully integrated. I know you're aware of what an iMachine is with Komatsu, and it's crazy to watch that thing work. And him be able. We were just on I know you keep up with our YouTube stuff, and I appreciate you, but basically we were on a crazy sloped driveway, and he took a shot down here, a shot here, and a shot here, built his own slope within that. It's crazy stuff, man. What this technology is coming to, and literally that's kind of where I'm going, is technology taking over the blue collar realm. It's as you know, probably more than anybody else in this country, us contractors, we're not real shabby on the computers. You know what I mean? And so that's why this technology is such a gap for guys that have been in the business and are 50, 60 years old, been in the business 20, 30 years. They're like, I don't need all that crap. We've been doing it for 50 years this way. And they see it done and they're like, oh, I don't need 5 guys anymore to blue top. I don't, you know what I mean? It's just,
Yeah.
what I'm trying to get at is younger face, just like yourself, probably in your 30s, like myself, trying to figure this out, company thing, but spin around the technology that has just slapped us in the face. A lot of contractors aren't ready for what, like, don't even care to want to get into it. Right. And I know you've met those folks, but then you've got folks like me, been in this game 9 years this month. Here we are, 5 years really in the commercial game. Man, 2 years ago, about almost 2 years ago, I had to really step up my GPS. I had to adapt. I had to build a younger group of individuals that still understood technology, not just from GPS standpoint. I'm talking about emails, bro, documentation, and you know all about the L word of liability. So,
Yeah.
but talk about a little bit from things you've seen, people you've talked about. I know you service Canada as well. Any issues you've seen there, but technology trends just absolutely wiping the floor with us, man.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot more people recently that I've, started working with when I first started my business doing this that didn't have any sort of GPS, and they might get just like a base and a rover, and then, man, this is awesome. And then, they move on to get, full blown out. You right there, yeah. So, then they get full blown, 3D GPS on all their systems. I really think it's a cost savings. I know it's like a pretty penny up front you're looking at, but your GPS is going to always be there on time. It's never going to show up hungover, nothing like that. I think it reduces the amount of rework by a significant amount. I was reading something that Trimble put out a while ago, and I think it was like 30% less rework or something like that. And I think it would honestly be even higher than that. I think it just limits room for error. If you're out there and you're just doing it, let's say, with a laser out there trying to blue top it, like you're saying, you eliminate labor right there. Also, you eliminate your room for error. Maybe the labor didn't, put in the numbers right, and now you're, instead of being on grade, you're 6 inches too low or 6 inches too high, and well, shit, you already have stone on top. It's ready for pavement now. So,
Yep.
I think it's gonna be. I see more and more people moving to it all the time, and I think it's really going to kind of. I think it's almost gonna be like a standard in the future. At least with commercial work where you have plans and prints and everything. Of course, there's definitely some jobs where it's not going to help you at, but for the most part, it's going to save you a lot of time and money in the long run.
No, 100%, brother. I mean, on the contractor side of things, you're expected. a utility contractor, okay? Let's remove dirt. Let's remove earth for just a minute. Let's talk to utility contractors and talk about just survey and layout and line work, bro. It is I can't even tell you, game changer. All I require, all my contracts, is the first initial staking be done by the engineer. And some projects do that, some don't. We can lay out effectively and go out in the middle of a field as long as we've got control points, and that's where that water service is going to go. That's where that manhole is going to go. That's where that hydrant's going to go, etc. Right? But before, buddy, I can tell you I have spent tens of thousands of dollars on labor over the years of guys sitting in trucks waiting for a surveyor to show up to put a stake in the ground. And yep. I can literally, to give you a sense of what a contractor went through, the dozer was 306 back then, 2 years ago, almost 2 years in March. I had about 18 months. 2 Basin Rovers, they were $52K a piece through TopCon, and then magnet licensing. And you know about all the other little bits and pieces of subscriptions they hit us with. But man, I went full on in because I actually rented a Leica Basin Rover for roughly 6-8 months. I actually liked the usability more of the Leica gear, and so did my guys. But I told you on the front end of this, I really thought it was better integration to just go through the whole thing with one. You know what I mean? And so that's why I went so hardcore for TopCon. But dude, I don't understand how utility contractors work without it now efficiently, bro, because that rework percentage has got to be up there. And I'm going to find that statistic and maybe place it in the article below. But literally, man, the rework and downtime alone, it pays for itself. Catching one engineer bust with a Basin Rover literally pays for itself. Then you start integrating into machine control, and I know we're getting very technology trendy just in mine and your world, but that's literally mine and your world, you know, dirt and utilities. Now, I don't know if the audience really knows this. What we're referencing is we put a GPS model that Ben can successfully make over at paydirtsupport.com. He can basically give you a takeoff, give you quantities, get your numbers over to your contractor or your ownership group. While that's happening, he's behind the scenes making a model. If you have a retrofitted GPS, etc., you'll be able to see that. But if you have an iMachine, talk about an iMachine dozer, but what about an iMachine excavator? You were talking about dozers or trench fences, etc. Either way, and you're setting that up and being able to plug and play. There is no laborer in the ditch digging sewer lines because the excavator teeth will not, correct me if I'm wrong here, Ben, you'll basically put a fence at the bottom of that ditch and it will not dig anymore, correct? Hydraulically.
Yeah, exactly. I even have some clients have they have tilt rotators, inch cons on there, and it'll even swivel the exact way that they need it to swivel or angle. It's amazing. I've never seen anything like it. So I mean, it can
oh my God, I didn't.
Right? Just think of one of those that rotates down there versus just your regular thumb down there. It's pretty wild. I as far as the trenches, yeah, exactly. It's not going to go below. I mean, you can manually make it go below if you want, but you know, in most cases, you can just have it preset so it can just dig and you're set to go.
And the operator's just looking at his screen of exactly what's happening in his prints or, you know, his iPad, etc., man.
Exactly. And if they do happen to go too low or something, you know, it's going to tell them right then and there. You can correct it as it happens. And, you know, you're not going to be worried about it when you're setting the pipe for sure. So
I'm hoping our conversation right now, brother, is helping somebody rethink what they're doing. And I hope just maybe one guy that we help rethink from estimation, he can buy time. With your service alone, he doesn't have to add anything. If he's trying to learn his Basin Rover and can lean on you to help build him a model for that Basin Rover if he wanted to get started there. Or, hey guys, you can rent Basin Rovers. I promise you. Ben can build you a model, stick it in that rented, put it in the job. And that way you know for a fact, say you're doing a subdivision for the first time. Do not do a subdivision without GPS. I will tell you, don't do it. It will cost you an arm and a leg. And I was the same guy. I was like, oh, we don't need all that crap. By God, take measures, and by God, rotary laser. It's all I need. I'm a dirt man, you know? No, bud. You need a freaking God wand telling you exactly where that engineer drew it is actually on that piece of property. Put it there, and you'll get paid to take it out and put it somewhere else because you put it exactly where that freaking drawing is. Exactly. My guys, we get in an argument all the time, my dude, of, well, it's going to work better like this. I don't care. What does that freaking print say? What does it say in that God wand? And what I'm calling a God wand is the rover and the data collector for our audience. And basically those guys can sit out there and go, well, the pipe needs to go right here. Well, if the engineer said to draw it right, drew it to be right there, put it right there because we can get paid to freaking redo it. Now, don't get me wrong. We're not sitting out there trying to do that to our clients and, you know, our ownership groups, but we only have so much of a leg to stand on. We can notify them. We can tell them pre-contract because we had a takeoff from paydirtsupport.com and have all that information and give that to them up front. And here we are dealing with said issue that we're catching on our GPS during installation. Here's a second time we're talking about this. For the love, it should be a pretty easy sell on the change orders where I'm going with that, gentlemen. So lastly, my guy, not completely lastly, but you have literally gave me some insight, and that's what I love about this podcast, man. I learned so much. I've learned some stuff in this conversation that I didn't know previously. I'm learning along the way, and I'm hoping we can educate and help other guys like myself running a business, number one, but number two, in specific. I had no idea you were out there, bro. Then I found you, and I tell everybody about you. I'm like, hey man, if you don't have any expertise in estimation, lean on somebody that does, because you're only screwing yourself in the long run. But man, I know we've talked about paydirtsupport.com. Make sure you guys are hitting up bluecollarbusinesspodcast.com. That's where you can find all of our information, everything that we've got coming up. Every Wednesday at 5 a.m. is a new episode for you guys to click on, listen to, and watch right there on our website or any of your streaming platforms. Lastly, brother, building and running your own business is challenging in itself. Sure. Not just the niche you're in or what we're doing or paving a way, etc. Kind of pioneering this technology front. I'm here with you. I'm trying to do it too. It's not easy. There's nothing been laid out before how we do this, etc. And man, number one, to build an estimating service that is getting referred, I'm not talking like once a month, every single time in any of these escalation, you guys come up, which is such a great thing, bro. That means
I love it.
That means you're giving great quality out to the customer. But your project coordination was great. Your takeoff, the value I felt as a contractor paying you for a takeoff. It wasn't just dirt, cut, fill. No, dude, I had sidewalks, subgrade, base for sidewalks, base for curb. I mean, it was insanely detailed down to a T. But it's just like my work quality. My work quality has to speak for itself in the same. If I leave a ditch full of freaking rocks and the water dams up, well, it's my fault. I was an idiot when I was installing it. You know what I mean? But what I'm trying to get at, my guy, is when you start your business, number one, and kind of walk us through kind of the behind the scenes of running your own business, because there's not enough young guys like us giving a crap about the blue collar community, honestly.
Yeah. So I pretty much have always had my own business. This one particular, it's going on about 3 years now. Before that, I had an excavation company as well. That's how I got into this.
No way, I did not
Um,
know that.
yeah, so I was young and stupid, and I thought I was gonna be the biggest guy on the block, and that ended terribly. And I was like, well, I know how to estimate. I was like, I might be a shitty project manager, but I know how to estimate, that's for sure. So I
It's
I
so
also, man,
honest, my guy. I love you.
I got super blessed and lucky on this one. It'll never happen again. So I made a couple posts on those Facebook groups, and I've always tried to put value in there wherever I could. And said, hey, I'm Ben. I do estimating, and it literally, I remember to this day, I had 37 messages and emails the next morning when I woke up, and I essentially just became full time after that. And then it got to be, at first it was just, hey, I do takeoffs, and I could estimate completely, a smaller project, give me a Starbucks or a Circle K or something like that. I can do that. That's fine. I can give you the production on that. And then it got to be where I was doing, sites that were like the takeoff that I sent over to you, or that you sent over to me that we did. And, Contra said, hey, can you bid this for me? I said, man, you're going to have to help me out on this one. I'll do it for free. So I did a lot of them just for free to get a lot of insight from guys that, have a lot more experience than me that just didn't have time to do it. So learn more and more, try to be in the field more also, and visit clients in the field so I could, get a better understanding of these larger, mass grading sites that I didn't have as much knowledge on.
Mhm.
But I mean, really, since it just kept getting bigger and bigger, then GPS modeling, it started to get to where I need to hire, people to help me out here. Definitely right now for me, the large key is to have the right people, and to, delegation of the right people to their, to their appropriate, places where they excel at. One thing that I really learned the hard way also was to do what you're good at and then hire out what you're not good at. So to me, in my humble opinion, I think I'm good at sales. So what did I do with my last business? I hired a salesman. That was a great idea. So when really I should have hired a project manager this whole time. So now I know that, it's a tough lesson, but it's learned. So that's one of the key things. As far as all the excavation guys that are out listening to this, which is, I'm sure, predominantly who's listening to this, um, you know, I'm not trying to say that all financing is bad, but just don't go in over your head on things, and, keep a level head about it. You don't need to win every job also, and you're not going to win every job also. So when you have a couple bids that you don't get, don't, stay down, just keep rolling them out. It's like on average, roughly 25% of all bids you throw out are gonna be accepted if you're. That's on a good day. The little
Yeah, our conversion rate right now is basically 11%.
that's not bad at all either. I think a lot of it is relationship building. I have some guys that get damn near every job that we bid, and it's because they have great relationships, and they only bid. They send me 4 or 5 projects a year.
Right.
I have some guys that, they're trying to get their foot in the door, and you got to just throw numbers. Just got to keep throwing numbers out there to
Bid more,
get
win
some
more.
attention. Exactly. And make sure they're still solid numbers, and, communication is key, like you're talking about earlier. That's a huge thing to getting these jobs is, if you're not getting them, or if you're getting them, you need to communicate. And I know not all general contractors are the best about updating if you lost the bid, or to be very helpful where you did lose it at. But I always tell everyone, call up the GC. If you didn't win it, let me know where it's high at, where it's low at. Let's fix these numbers for, the next time. Was it just a low bid guy that came in and he's going to either bankrupt himself or give them a $500,000 or more in change orders? Or there's so many variables that go on. It's easy to get down with not winning projects, or things aren't going right. But you just have to keep going on, especially in this line of every line of work, but on this one especially. I think it's I think excavation is a little bit harder than some other lines for sure.
Dude, I'm telling you, I try not to use that as a crutch, but if people had any idea what an excavation contractor and utility contractor sets themselves up for in business, they would not do it. They would not, if they understood business, unless they have one of those great relationships that they just come across that they're going to do 4 or 5 jobs. And there's guys around here that do that with the Walmart and the Tysons and the
Yep.
JB Hunts, and there's plenty of that. But that's a totally different table.
Oh
And
yeah.
a lot of, like you said, dude, I say all the time on this channel, relationships are everything in business. And 2024, especially, you want to know how you make it in 2024? You have relationships and you ensure that you haven't screwed anybody over. And man, especially this day and age running a business, man, I did not know you came from the excavation contractor world. So that's even cooler. Um, Basically, how many years, if you don't mind, I want to pry a little bit. How many years were you kind of involved there? Because I think your story is such a success story, my dude. You're an excavation contractor. No wonder you knew how to talk to me and how to communicate to me extremely well, because you were me at one point. So that's a freaking great sales tactic. And then if you're halfway good at sales, it's not quite that hard to get it in the door when you already have the information of what you did. So kind of how long you did it. What were you doing? Utilities? Were you doing dirt work?
Yeah, so I had that business for about 5 years. I actually started doing landscaping, which I think a lot of excavation guys started off doing. I like the back of my Nissan Altima, man. In like, I don't know, maybe like 20,
That's a blue collar story right there, dude.
like 2018, maybe something 2019. No, it'd been 2017, I believe, or 2018, one of those two. I'm getting old. I can't remember that far back, but somewhere around there, and started like doing a lot of hardscapes. I wanted to do hardscapes. So I built it up to do hardscapes. Had a couple crews rolling for that. Started to get into like single family utility work a lot. Um,
Okay.
then did, a handful of, actual dirt projects, a lot of utility work for the most part though. And then, not mass grading by any means, but, some light, couple 1,000 yard grade work projects, nothing too huge. And really I kind of got my start. My father actually, he used to have a concrete plant, and, we just were always doing some blue collar shit all the time, whether it's, running his loader, or, gardening with a tractor, whatever it is. That's all we ever did. And then I worked on a farm from like, I think I was like 15 years old when I really started working there all the time. Probably really started when I was like 12. Was on it,
Old farm
ran just about
kid.
everything. Yeah, exactly. Honestly, I think hiring farm kids are the way to go if you're an excavation contractor. They don't know how to do it, they're gonna figure it out, in my opinion. I might be a
That's
little
in
biased though.
that's in any blue collar trade though. I mean, in any apprenticeship
Oh
program, is
yeah.
a lot of it is just figuring it out. And that's a man, is that not a part of business or what? It's fake it till you make it. And but before I go too far off there, so you started hardscaping, which is for anybody that doesn't understand that in the audience realm, that is more retaining walls, that's more concrete structures, etc., that people would like and desire in their landscape. But landscape is more a little bit of edging and a few flower beds. But hardscaping, materials need to move out, materials need to move in, things need to happen on the site, etc. So I agree with you, Ben, that a lot of guys would rather sit in that skid steer all day in that Mini X than get out and do a little bit of raking and make 45% in the landscaping world. I mean, them landscapers, I understand why everybody does it. The margins are real, and as long as you can
Oh yeah.
sell your work and figure out the pieces of the puzzle. I got a big shout out to Mike Andes, Augusta Lawn Care. He's literally taken over the entire country and
Yep.
now is on YouTube and has his own podcast platform, sharing exactly what we're sitting here doing, trying to help another guy. So, single family utilities, did we get up to a little bit of a equipment fleet size at one point?
Yeah, man.
I figured.
I don't even, maybe I had a dozer, had like two mini mid-sized, had a mid-sized, I guess three excavators, three triaxles, probably five skid steers, a slew of work and single axle trucks. Yeah, so that was a bad idea in hindsight, for sure. So,
I'm
that
laughing with
was,
you, brother. I promise.
yeah, no, it's all,
I know
you can
you.
laugh at or with, it doesn't matter.
I promise you, I have made some really dumb decisions over my working business entrepreneurship. Really dumb. And I say it all the time. Education is expensive, but experience is utterly freaking priceless. And once you go through, everybody's telling you no, 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 and you're like, you guys are crazy. I'm doing it anyways. Here we go. And then 6 months later, you're like, oh,
Oh, I
well,
am stupid. I am.
yeah, I am a
Maybe I should have
complete
listened a little
utter
bit more.
dumbass when it came to this. And but
Yeah,
literally, that's where that experience is priceless. You know what I mean? So,
exactly.
thank you for sharing that little bit of insight there. But man, to see you go, it's just such a success story, is what I wanted to hit on, my guy, because you literally, I feel you. You're either 2 months away from bankruptcy or 2 months away from making the most money you've ever made in your life as an
Yep.
excavation contractor. And if you roll the dice a little too wrong and it doesn't roll your way a couple of times, it's really hard to eat those free 99 sandwiches and get all the work done. But the number one thing is getting the work done. You've got to complete the work. I don't care if you're not making money or whatever. You got to complete that project, because that project is going to speak way more in volume than you'll ever understand in monetary sense, in my
Yep.
experience. But man, to see you literally figure out, you are a blue collar success story. Now I got to say, the tech world's a little white collar, but at the same time, man, what you're doing to help the blue collar community needed some light shined on it for sure, my dude. And I, being a client customer myself, wanted to get you on here and share your story. You should be glad these show notes would have been probably a little bit differently if I had known that going in. But man,
We
to
can always
live,
do round two in the future, man.
and you know what, we may do that, my guy, because it has been an absolute pleasure learning a little about, especially where you've come from, what you're doing in the blue collar space to bring technology to the forefront and help these guys do it on the back end without them. You're basically buying time, right? Because they're not having to stop production. They're not having to learn sales if they're not a good salesman and they're a great project manager, whatever the case may be. I'm a great salesman, my guy. I'm also a good project manager because of 5 years of failure and how not to do it.
Yep.
That's the only reason I'm good at it. And I can do 3, 4, 5 crew things at the same time, different specs, different towns, different materials, all nonstop every 5 minutes. And a lot of people can't do that. But to a point I want to make, my dude, is that everybody, there's a lot of entrepreneurial coaching programs out there. Not everybody is cut out to be a dadgum entrepreneur. And
Yeah.
to see, but to your testament, my guy, failing in the excavation space, sitting here saying, hey, I failed. I didn't know what to do. I literally did the one thing I knew how to do, threw it out. Here you are, bro. And you're 3 years in, things are rolling. You got 8 or 9, 10 folks on staff all across the country, remote, and you're helping guys like me, dude. What a freaking success story. And if you haven't been celebrated enough, I just wanted to take the time and celebrate you, my dude, because that is, dude, hats off, tip of the hat to you, my guy, for coming back strong. And that leads me to my final question that I always ask pretty much everybody that's on the show. What's a takeaway for the blue collar worker who is sick and tired of being just stuck in the mud, whether that's literally, whether that's mentally, whether that's emotionally. You understand more than anybody, if you've been in this as much as I have, almost 9 years, like you just said, 10 years, man, you know, the mental game sucks. Whether you're at the bottom and you're working on a pipe crew, you're at the top, they don't understand, but it's way worse. They think we're just up here eating steaks every night and everything's great, but it's really not. We're just trying to keep it all to freaking together. You know what I mean? So,
Yep.
give me a little insight for an audience member that you may be able to hit home with.
Yeah, I think if someone's employed by someone else, they're trying to get their own business. I think for one, do it, but do it carefully. Think it through, have a plan, save up for it. Make sure you're not gonna cause more harm than good by it. To yourself and to others. And I think just really planning, step by step. Taking things just a baby step. There's no need to jump and a leap at anything. The slow game wins it, honestly.
That's good truth right there. The slow game wins it, honestly. You're absolutely right, my dude. It's the long, slow grind that eventually pays off as you're starting to see yourself. And I know you definitely, you're saying you close the doors with the excavation, but I know you hit some home runs in that fortitude as well. I mean, not to amass all those trucks and everything you had, my guy. I mean, you have wins and losses, but it's managing those wins and losses, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Got it. You're gonna have wins and losses. You're gonna have to take both. Just try to get more wins.
That's the game, my guy. And to string a couple of those wins together, I don't know, man. We're just gonna keep living, every day.
Exactly. LIVIN, living, man.
Man, I really appreciate your time, brother, and taking an hour out. And there's going to be so many individuals that you help from this. Maybe earn clients and customers. Yes, it's one thing, but literally the conversation we just had helped me a little bit. I know it's going to help somebody else out there. And if you guys need any other explanation on any other subject matter, there's plenty of episodes on bluecollarbusinesspodcast.com. Go ahead and bookmark that, because every Wednesday we'll be slapping you with a brand new episode 5 a.m. in the morning, so you guys can be listening on your way to work, because I know you boys up early. But Mr. Ben, I really appreciate you, and until next time, be safe, be kind, be humble, guys. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a like, share it with the fellers, check out our website to send us any questions and comments about your experience in the blue collar business. Who do you want to hear from? Send them our way, and we'll do our best to answer any questions you may have. Till next time, guys.